I've recently been getting a lot of queries about law interviews and admission tests, so I thought I'd share about what I normally do a day before my interview and also what I normally do 15 minutes before my interview. A day before my interview, I tend to first mentally run through everything that I'm going to say to very common questions like tell me about yourself, why do you want to do law, what are some of your strengths and weaknesses, what interests you, what do you do in your free time. All these questions might seem very random, but I feel that it doesn't exactly matter whether you prepare for the right questions because the preparation process is a journey of discovering yourself and your story. So as you try to prepare and think of answers to these questions, you're actually learning about yourself, learning why you make certain choices, why you make this decision, what do you like to do. Because in this process, you discover yourself and you understand yourself better and you kind of get into a habit of articulating what you feel. Basically, get into the habit of expressing your opinions. It really will help you even if the question that you're eventually asked is different from the questions that you prepared for. You can really easily adapt whatever answers that you have prepared to suit the question that you asked. Now that you actually do know yourself better and do have certain stories that you want to share about yourself or your life or your decisions and choices. And the second thing that I will do a day before my interview is to catch up on the latest news. So I have gotten questions about where can you find the news. Typically, the most common places would be Straits Times, Business Times, CNA, just any news platform. But if you're looking for legal news, I would suggest this website called Singapore Law Watch. If you go to Singapore Law Watch, you click headlines. If you scroll down, you see links to Straits Times about certain law-related news. So that's one place that I would go to read up on the latest news. And I think there are certain hot topics that may come up, but don't take my word for it because I'm not the interviewer. Just these are things that I think are interesting to talk about or read about also. First thing I think would be the PDPA because it's a relatively fresh legislation and also there have been a number of data breaches recently, like the one at Singtel and the one with our healthcare system. Given the tech world that we live in now, I feel that this topic is always ongoing and there are always instances where the PDPA will come into play. So I think it's good to read about that. Second, 377A, this is always a hot topic. But honestly, I personally find this topic a can of worms because I don't want to go too deep into whether there should be a freedom to love. You know, it can get very philosophical in some sense. So I wouldn't bring this up if nobody brings it up. But I think it's good to know what is going on with this 377A issue because one of your fellow interviewees in the discussion room may just bring it up. Third thing is probably how COVID affected some of the foreign workers. The foreign worker dormitory issue was quite big at that point in time when many foreign workers were getting COVID. So I think employment-related matters like the progressive wage model is something that you may want to consider looking into. Fourth thing would be mediation, the idea of mediation. What is mediation? I think when I was taking the bar, I felt that generally people are promoting mediation instead of litigation. So I think it's also good to know that there is this alternative method of resolving disputes that does not always involve going to court. So yeah, do read up on mediation. And finally, the last thing would be the POHA and doxing. Essentially, doxing is now an offence in Singapore and it's under the POHA, the Protection from Harassment Act. So yeah, you can take a read on that because this is relatively new. It only happened in January last year. I think it's good to have an opinion on these topics. And in any case, again, it doesn't really matter whether you actually spot the correct topic because as you try to read up on this latest news and try and find out more about what is going on in this legal space, you are already gaining knowledge which will definitely benefit you in one way or another, even if you don't get a question on that topic precisely, but at least you will know generally, briefly, what is going on. This is important in the case where people in the interview room happen to bring up a random topic that they are interested in that you are actually not interested in. But if you had gone through this process of trying to find out what is going on, you may have come across some of this news even if you didn't do deep research into it. That about sums up what I would do a day before my interview. Now what do I do 15 minutes before the interview? I would say stop reading things because nothing is going to go into your brain. You can't study for something in the last 15 minutes. So first thing I do is pray and entrust my interview to God. For those of you who are not religious, I don't know what you do, but yeah, because I do believe that many are the plans of men, but it is God's will that prevails. So I will simply entrust everything and every anxiety or every nervous thought to God and allow Him to step into my situation and also allow Him to take control of the conversation that is going on in the room. Second thing I would do is to be comfortable with myself because I think confidence comes from being comfortable. If you're not comfortable with yourself, you feel a little bit awkward or a little bit shy or just uneasy, then your confidence gets affected. So do whatever it takes to help yourself feel comfortable. I'm not sure about what you need to do. Maybe you need to listen to some music, speak to some people, read a book, just do whatever makes you comfortable. For me, I find that talking to people helps. So I will tend to chit chat with whoever I see, sometimes even the security guard, anybody who is available for me to have a conversation with, because that really puts me at ease. And the last thing that I will try to remind myself of is to have the correct perspective. Basically, I will tell myself not to take this interview too seriously and not to treat it like an interview, but more like a conversation with a friend. So if you ask yourself, how will you react in a conversation with a friend to a difficult question? you won't get nervous, right? Because it's a friend. You will simply think of an answer or a way to somehow address the person's questions. So I think if you have that mindset, and if you tell yourself that, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with a friend later, and this is not really a very serious interview, this is not the be all and end all. If you tell yourself that this is just another conversation in life, I think you will feel more at ease and more comfortable without feeling too nervous about difficult questions. I hope my short sharing helps, and I hope that you'll be able to speak with confidence, humility, and grace in your interview. That's all. Bye.